Hey, so I have not been to this earth and that's a bad way to start. Let me introduce myself. My name is Steb. I'm what the multiverse recognizes as a Void Walker. Now, since I started realizing my abilities, I have kept a journal. And I think the easiest way to explain what I'm capable of would be to share my first journal entry here. So here it is. January 24th, 2011. I woke up this morning thinking that I'd be asleep in my bed by nighttime. As my watch alarm started going off, I groggily dragged myself out of bed. In my peripheral vision, I saw the corner of my room shimmering. A thin, crystalline structure forming on only the crease of the crack, where they always were. Where colors that I have always been unable to explain to people lie beneath. They are always a little different in color though. I started seeing them when I was about 7. I'm now 16 and after a truckload of antipsychotics, therapy, and them still not going away, I just don't bring them up. No one believes me, but I know that they're there. By the time I had finished buttoning up my shirt and fastening my belt, the shimmering rip in my wall had gone away. Just a normal corner once more. The thought passed as I walked down the stairs, dreading going to church. I met my mom at the bottom. "Hey Mom, how long until we leave?" "Probably about 40 minutes. Why?" I'm gonna run over to Taylor's really quick. She called me a whole bunch last night." "Well, okay, sweetie, be back before we leave." I will. I said, debating whether or not to just stay over there. And Taylor was the little girl down the street. Black and purple hair, bright blue eyes, and she was the girl of my dreams. And we grew up together essentially, given we both only have our moms left. My dad dead and hers had run away. We connected really well. We had started dating about 7 months ago. The phone began ringing as I tried calling her back, but she didn't answer. On my way out, a mostly golden yellow rip appeared on the door frame. I never touched one. I didn't know what they were, and I was smart enough to know not to touch things that only you can see. The morning air was humid and hot. Now regretting wearing my long-sleeved shirt, I started to make my way over to Taylor's house. It was just across the street, 3 houses down. The first thing I noticed while walking up was this beat-up red Honda Civic with a busted-out headlight and only one side mirror. I had never seen this car before in my entire time of us being together. The only thing I noticed was that her mom's car was gone. I walked up to her house and I knocked twice. No one answered. I was pretty uneasy about the unidentified vehicle, but I figured it was just a down-on-their-luck relative. I knocked once more and suddenly, I was overwhelmed by this feeling of anxiety. You see, these rips that I see can exude different emotions. I always thought it was based on their color. But I now think it has much more to do with the environment that surrounds them. I tried to open the door, but it was locked. Knowing where the house key is, I stepped off the porch to pick up the rock it was usually hidden under. But it had already been moved. I stood there terrified and worried as I was the only one who used that key. Taylor and her mom both had their own keys. I ran to the back door hoping that it was unlocked. It swung open with force. In the pitch-black kitchen, I stood and greeted with silence. Not a single light was on in the entire house from what I could tell. A slight shuffle rang out from upstairs, but then it was silence again. I turned down my phone flashlight and sprinted upstairs into the direction of the shuffle. My girlfriend's bedroom door opened to find Taylor tied up with duct tape over her mouth in the middle of the floor. Flicking on the light switch and starting to untie her, she tried to talk, but it came out muffled. "I'm sorry," I said as I pulled the duct tape off of her lips. She started sobbing for a few seconds before she could speak. My dad, he somehow found us. I don't know how, but I think he killed Mom. I was stunned. I didn't know a whole lot about her dad. She didn't like to talk about him a whole lot, which is understandable. I'm so sorry, Taylor. We need to get out of here right now. Can you walk? I asked as the last knot came undone. I think that I'll need help. I can't feel my left leg at all. Looking at it, her leg from the bottom to where her shorts started was bruised. Okay. I slung one arm over my shoulder and we made our way out of my room back towards the staircase. As we got halfway down the front door, it opened up and I hoped that it was the cops coming to check on Taylor after finding her dad, but I knew that was wishful thinking. The moment the figure fully stepped into the house, Taylor let out a scream, followed by immediately sobbing. The figure's head in the dark snapped straight to us and began running towards the staircase. We turned around and started back up the steps as her father followed, catching up. We made it to the bathroom, and we were able to lock it just as he made it to the door. He started yelling at us to open the door, which would spawn several loud bangs on it. Taylor was sat on the toilet as I barricaded the door with the towel rack and the toilet paper stand. Then the yelling stopped, and the kicks on the door had started, and I could already tell that it wasn't going to hold. There was no window and no weapons, and no way that I was about to outmuscle an adult. I was losing hope and just wishing that I could be outside when I looked behind me. In the corner, bursting from this terror, was sunshine. I could see it. A blue sky, the sun. All the crystals made sense and it formed a picture in my brain, larger than the wire-thin crystal formation. I knew what I had to do. I made sense of what they were. All the tears in the void made sense. They were portals, I remember thinking. How wrong I was. I grabbed her hand and asked if she trusted me. Tears still rolling from her eyes, she nodded. Putting her arm back across my shoulders, I walked us over to the corner where just the feeling of calm ran over me, and I reached forward into it. Like falling asleep, I awoke standing on top of a hill. I immediately looked at Taylor, and she grabbed onto me and we both fell to the ground out of fear and exhaustion. I closed my eyes thinking about the events that had just unfolded, about the terror and the image that it had created. That was the first time that it had ever happened to me like that, and normally they only disappeared. Rarely did the rips appear when I was already in a room. And that's when my eyes opened, seeing 3 blazing suns atop a cloudless sky. February 17th, 2011. After a few weeks of living on this new world, which I accidentally had led us to, it's been hard to find food, but that is basically it. With the increased heat given off by the extra suns, it's not too hard to find a place to sleep. What we've observed, however, is that the suns are significantly further away than the one that we had grown so accustomed to, which means that the heat is always at a solid 60 degrees. So that's another thing. There seems to be no weather on this planet, no clouds, just a day of 60-degree weather every single day. No matter though, because the weirdest thing is this new land, and the humans. They look just like how we evolved on our planet, the one you're reading this on, and we even recognize some places on a map. We found out that Washington, D.C. is still in the same place, but the way they act is just so strange. We've avoided it as much as possible. Even listening to them speak to one another was bone-chilling. I'll transcribe a conversation that I overheard while at a coffee shop, and I scribbled it on a napkin. "Ayo, sir, let I have one blank coffee. Why not your mail good, mas? 1970, ma. Thank you, ma. On your every day. Every day. They all talk like this, and it's honestly just bizarre and hard to understand. I haven't seen any rips yet on this world either. It's almost as if I'm not as in tune here. It's a strange feeling. And I've avoided talking about nighttime for as long as possible because that's when things really start to get surreal. If this whole experience wasn't already. Once night falls here, there are no moons. It would be pitch black if not for the false moonlight towers strung above each city, giving it the same glow as a moon just with no phases. And you would never guess what they run on. Nuclear plants. They found a way to turn nuclear energy into clean and efficient energy, and it progressed their society so far beyond ours. But just from the small town that we're staring at right now, it's noticeable. Sorry about getting sidetracked. Anyway, the people at nighttime, they don't sleep. We've even broken into a few houses for food and noticed that there were no beds in the entire place. What they do instead, however, is sit on the floor and lean their head back. Their eyes roll into the back of their head and they just let out wild yells for hours on end. We always find somewhere in the woods to camp out, but even out there we hear the yells sometimes still. We cry each other to sleep most nights now. I tried to explain how I saw the rip in what I now realize was space that I was somehow able to access to bring us here, to Taylor, and she seemed to understand. However, I'm entirely unable to bring us back. It's a harrowing reality, but we're young. Maybe we have a life to live here yet. February 21st, 2011. Things have gotten much worse in the past few days. It's almost as if something doesn't want us here and I can feel it. It's getting closer to us. And I've started feeling the presence of the rips around me. However, I'm still unable to see them. Hold on, I'll be right back. I just heard a sound in the woods not too far away from us. Whatever it was found us. We ran through the woods as this 8-foot-tall, shadowy monstrosity with arms as skinny as a javelin that hung down to its knees. It was fast, but we had about a football field's head start. We sprinted towards the nearest house as the creature began to gain on us. Coming up on the house, I spotted what looked like a bathroom window ajar on the side of it. Grabbing Taylor's hand, we dove into the bathroom and shut the window. The creature approached the window, and it uttered the most gut-wrenching sentence directly into my brain. "You are not supposed to be here, and she is supposed to be dead." And with that, what I now recognized as some sort of higher cosmic power strode away. This night just keeps getting weirder too. As we stayed here in this bathroom silent, I noticed a rip in the shower, a black and white one. No emotion was emitted from it. However, as I stood up, a bright light flashed and a girl, who seemed to be either 19 or 20, with white and purple hair adorned in a black leather jacket and ripped black jeans, appeared in the shower. Before either me or Taylor could react, she spoke. "Listen, I don't have time to explain right now, but I need to get you both off this planet. This is a Tylaxian slug," she said as both of her hands reached out, holding 2 blue and pink slugs about half the size of her palm. "Do not chew them. Swallow them whole, please." "No way," Taylor stammered. "No, we need to eat them, Taylor." She made a rip directly to where we were. "She knows what she's doing," I said, taking the slug in my hand. Clearly annoyed at my taking of this stranger's side, she aggressively grabbed the slug and downed it to make a point. "Good," she said. "Now grab my hand." I could see a tear forming in the shower again as we all joined hands. The stranger reached out to the jagged tear of black and white, and once her fingertip made contact, I saw nothing. Then again, as if I was waking up, I opened my eyes to see that we were standing on some kind of moon. Instantly, my blood started racing as I couldn't breathe. Taylor and I both began to panic and dropping to our knees. Gripping at my neck, I very quickly realized that I wasn't getting any weaker. I wasn't holding my breath. And that's when these strangers spoke up. The slugs you just swallowed have the benefit of constantly producing oxygen that pumps into your lungs. You guys no longer need to breathe. Congratulations. What followed this entry is probably one of the fondest times of my life. Since then, Taylor and I have been able to bounce between different dimensions by following the rips. I hopefully have many more stories to tell, but for now, I just want to go back home.